It's been my experience over many years of repairing guitars that most players, most of my customers, are afraid to adjust their own truss rod. They're afraid they're going to break it. It's not very easy to break a truss rod, and you don't need to fear it. So let's take a look at truss rods and how they work. Guitar necks bend, especially over the years from string tension pulling them up. They can get into a very deep up bow. Imagine if this were the string line, the action would be horrible up here, and nobody likes that. Or if I pull back, now the straight edge is rocking from end to end. If this were the strings, they'd be touching the frets in the middle of the neck. Another thing that makes wood bend or not bend is humidity or the lack of it. And all this is controllable with the truss rod. So there are two kinds of truss rods that are most commonly used, a single action rod or a double action rod. This is a single action rod, a very common rod and the type that's used in this guitar. It's a long piece of steel that's fastened at one end of the neck down by the body, and it's threaded on this end down at the peg head. The steel washer bears against the mahogany at the end of this cavity, and the brass nut tightens on the threads and exerts pressure. We call that an acorn nut. This rod is installed into the neck on a curve, and when you tighten the threads, it's trying to straighten out, and it will pull the neck back straight against the pull of the strings, or if you tighten it a whole bunch, it will actually back bow the neck, and then the strings would hit in the middle on the frets. When you loosen it because of the string tension, it goes either straight or back into an up bow. That's a single action truss rod, and there are many types. So you know which way to adjust the rod in case you don't. If I want to tighten the rod and pull the neck back from the direction of the string pull, I'm going to turn to the right or clockwise. If I turn it to the left, I'm loosening this single action rod. That's counterclockwise. That'll go back up towards the direction of the string pull. You can stop when the neck's straight if it was in an up bow, or keep going and get a lot of relief. Follow the rule righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, corny as it is. Now here's a double action rod. This is the StewMac hot rod. It adjusts the same as a single action rod. That is, if you turn it to the right, righty-tighty, it's going to pull the neck back away from the string pull. But when you loosen it, the nut doesn't come loose. It will force the neck in the other direction. So you can actually force a back-bowed neck into being straight or even into up bow or relief. When you turn it, the two rods are compressing and they can bend in either direction. So let's adjust the truss rod. We're going to adjust this 1960s Gibson SG. One nice thing about this little Tex screwdriver set is that the barrel is magnetized, so you can hold a screw and put it right in without fumbling. My favorite tool, I gotta tell you. Everybody I know gets one for Christmas. Here we see the acorn nut. I look down the fretboard on this guitar and I know that it has an up bow. Can you see that gap right in the middle? It's deepest right in here. That's a lot of relief. That's an up bow. If you don't have a straight edge, the string can be a straight edge. Put one finger at the first fret and one finger way up high, maybe at the 17th fret. Reach out with another finger and press it up and down and watch it. You can see that motion. That also shows you the up bow. I'm going to adjust that straight by turning the truss rod to the right. Before I tighten the nut to adjust the rod, I put a mark on it so I know where I'm starting out. An acorn nut takes a 5/16 socket. I'm going to turn it towards me, which is right, and I'm going to give it between an 1/8 and a 1/4 turn, and I think that's almost straight. I could go a little further. It doesn't take a lot to tighten a rod. Let's see what we got. That's a straight neck. The frets are a little bit uneven, so there's a slight gap you'll see, but the neck is straight as an arrow. A 1/2 turn plus an 1/8. Now, with a lot of guitars, they don't adjust at the peghead end. Vintage Fenders and many others, they adjust at the body end. That's not easy to get at, so you have to take the neck off to make your adjustment, tighten or loosen, put it back on, until you get the straightness you're after, and that's a lot of work. It's not uncommon to have to do that 3 or 4 times in a single setup. If there's a gap down there between the end of the neck and the pick guard, and sometimes there is, we do have this little wrench. It can fold down in and you can turn. You take off the pick guard to get at it though. Each time as the slot comes up, one of these ends will fit and allow you to turn. And it avoids damage in the body by jamming a screwdriver in there. So don't be afraid to adjust your own truss rod. Give it a try.